discussion, not so much discussion, candid putting across of your views. I can see that there is a widespread concern because there isn't much different between one resident welfare association and the other who spoke on issues bothering them. So I can see a widespread concern about very critical issues relating to housing, particularly in a multi-storied kind of a facility. And they relate to very substantial issues of ownership, of how much you can invoke the ownership and who invokes it at what point, and how are the liabilities transferred from the builder who's in between the landowner and the buyers of the apartments. So these are not small issues at all. And if it is so widespread, it means it is across the board. It's not as if one buyer or one seller or one builder who's a rogue builder who's done something wrong, but largely these are issues prevailing like grey areas where people who are smarter game it for their advantage and leave the rest of them high and dry. So I'm sure Dr. Sudhakar will be listening to all this, and at the state level there can be certain, steps taken to redress these grievances, which are legitimate grievances of individual home buyers, for which of course I'm not the person to sit and work on it, but I certainly will convey this worry which I've heard today across, because there was a time when in Mumbai, when apartments were growing at a very fast pace, these issues used to dominate. But I guess the Maharashtra government over the period of several years have little by little and incrementally addressed these issues, that largely apartment buyers don't suffer these fundamental problems which have been voiced here. So I'll assure you that I can certainly convey the angst that exists here and hope that some work can be done by the state government. But at this point we are only listening to you, especially with an election. It's not for me to give you a word or give you any promise. It is going to have to be gone through by the state units. But from the essence of what you said, anything from our side, from the Government of India, I'll go back to see if I can sit with the Urban Development Ministry and, in the light of what I've heard in Bengaluru, see if there are things that central government will have to do. But there are largely state governments which have to do. But I will sit with the Urban Development Ministry and see if there are any legislative or legal or rules-driven reforms that we can do, so that all citizens of India, not just relating to one state, can benefit from this experience that I've heard here in the city. I randomly recollect the issues other than the resident welfare, about how there should be more financial literacy and awareness to be built, and a cursory reference was made to the RBI. RBI is doing extensive financial awareness business, and for people who are staying in far-flung areas where RBI may not be physically present, the National Securities Depositories Center, the one which is holding all stock market basic data and so on, they have also wonderful digital financial literacy programs which is available for anyone who wants to know what it is. It is graded gradually. You can move from one to another. So, in fact, I was surprised to hear it from a chartered accountant. I would have thought, and that itself raises a question to me, which I need to go and search for answers. If a chartered accountant tells me that financial literacy has to be built, more awareness has to be brought in, and these are the sources which are only the RBA was referred to, the other things have not been mentioned, tells me that there is a gap between those who are doing it and even a chartered accountant, who I would have thought will be the first source of contact for anyone to go and say, will you please tell me about how I need to know about my finances? Would you please educate me? And the chartered accountant can say, I can, but I'm professionally tied up, but I can suggest 2 different places from where you can do online courses. So I would tell the RBI, and I would tell the Indian Chartered Accountants Institute also to first of all tell their own members, the various institutions which are promoting financial literacy, and have chartered accountants, much before they get their certification, to recite a list of those institutions which are giving financial literacy, or else they don't get certified. I just find it extremely difficult to gulp this. I find it extremely difficult. You're trained as a chartered accountant and given a certificate to bring in literacy as well as certify authentic accounts. And I don't blame the gentleman who raised that issue, but if that's the case, I fear for chartered accountants' information source. They're very well qualified to certify, but probably even they don't seem to have channels to get information. So I would go back to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India to say, excuse me, would you please do something about telling your own members what are the sources of financial literacy? And also tell the RBI to write to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India to say, I'm doing it, would you please recognize me? So, sorry if it sounds a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I'm worried for chartered accountants. So please, let us make sure that you are better informed, and I shall tell both the Institute and the RBI and the NSDC to get to writing to your institutions to say, please copy this and send to each one of your members, so that we fall back on chartered accountants to tell us A, B, C, D sources of financial education for us. There are also universities nowadays who are undertaking financial literacy course as part of their regular curriculum. So that can also help. Other than that, of course, there were specific issues which were largely related to taxation. I take your points. If there's anything that I can do in terms of going back and working out, I'll try to. But there was this one concern saying urban transport, investments are going away when they see our transport. We need to do something about a very genuine concern. What is the Bengaluru-Mysuru 6-laning? What is the outer ring road? What are the extra railways which are being provided even for urban circuit traveling? What is the metro? What are the immense flyovers? What is the super-fast trains which are coming in? So work is happening. I concede it's not enough, you need lots more. But if we have to catch up with, let's say, some decade which was lost in only corruption, and no fundamental work was done, we'll have to do the catching up all over the country. And if we feel this, and genuinely we feel it, I'm not blaming anybody. Just go see what it is in the Northeast, where rapid work on improving connectivity, infrastructure, digital, rail, road, airways, everything. Unbelievable work is happening, but even that's not sufficient. Because nothing has happened except for saying you're very remote, and because you're so remote, people who go and invest there should be given some subsidy because there's no road reaching you, and if they place it there, even for their primary inputs from Kolkata to, let us say, Guwahati to Shillong to Impal to any other place, Kohima, will cost lots more, but because you're locating there, Government of India will give you the subsidy. But you didn't think the collection of subsidy could have made a better road. You know, we kept doing a lot of things to calm down in short term, but didn't think in terms of medium and long term. If only you brought them into the connectivity network of this country, you didn't have to give the subsidy and they would have been honorably doing their own job anyway. So I'm happy to say that the need for good urban infrastructure and rural infrastructure is being felt by each one of us. And that is what Prime Minister Modi is rushing with. Roads everywhere, rural housing, airports. Second World War airstrips are being improved, enhanced and brought into the Udan scheme, which may not be very glamorous port, but at least it will have some aircrafts coming, aircrafts going. You can get connected to the nearest big international airport. So it's all being done now. More needs to be done, we will do more. That's a different story. But today the residents of India, residents of any one area, I'm happy feel that. We need it. We need more, better connectivity. We wouldn't have dared ask the governments 10, 15 years ago saying, hey, at that time, one road for a village would have been a big thing. But I'm glad we are improving, we are moving forward. So, I don't know if I missed out on any one particular point other than the specific individual issues. But I'll certainly take this conversation of today very seriously, particularly on the resident welfare association grievances which are across the board. So, thank you for giving me this opportunity and for this candidate. I thought I answered you. I thought I answered you. But
the amount of roads that are constructed, 4 lane, 6 lane, 8 lane, if people can't reach from point A to point B in the shortest time, it is not going to produce the result. Most important thing for that is to change the driving license issue, and it should be made across the country. Not 90% of the people who drive don't know. Even the testing people who are supposed to be police, they don't know the traffic. They only know red light, no entry, and beyond that, I ask them what is this line for. Roads are constructed wrongly, not with the area of these traffic routes. So it is not just building tens of thousands of roads worth of roads that's where it is all that. What will solve the problem is giving proper license and ensuring these licenses, the police are knowledgeable enough to check these points.
But this point wasn't mentioned in your earlier question for me to have answered it.